Going to do it really quick. It's really nice to see so many faces. This is the most people we've had in Zoom in a really long time. So I'm just letting everybody know the format of tonight's program, which is really Josh and Shelby and Callisto are going to be sharing some memories. We have a video about Judie, but the majority of tonight will be for everyone on the call to be able to share memories and stories about Judie. And just a reminder that if you want to do that, to put your name in the chat box and let us know, and we'll call people in the order that they are received. And we'll unmute you so you won't have to worry about that. And then just a reminder also to people that this meeting is recorded.
All right, should I get started here? All right. Well, first, thank you everybody for being able to attend tonight. You know, obviously we wanted to hold this many months ago, but situations dictated that we couldn't. But we're just really happy that we're able to do it now and able to do it through a Third Friday speaker series, as we're starting to revitalize the Third Friday speaker series online. As many of you know, Judie always held the Third Friday talks to heart. She always organized them and she never relinquished responsibility for it. And really, you know, like took pride in the fact that she kept this tradition going. And, you know, she was persistent in all of that, and, you know, never shied away from letting you know it. But I think that's what made her so special to CWB, is that she really took the organization to heart. You know, and really lived the organization for, you know, her whole adult life, if you will. And the other thing is that Judie just always had the center's best interest at heart in everything that she did. You know, on a personal note, she always sought to support me. And, you know, I moved out here from the East Coast. I didn't know anybody else. And right off the bat, Judie, you know, kind of took me under her wing, so to speak. And just connected me with all the people in CWB's past, and helped provide me with like some context for what this organization was and who everybody was that really made CWB what it is. And it was just really special. You know, like I don't think I'd be here leading the organization now if it wasn't for Judie helping me understand what CWB is all about. And so kind of with that, just to kind of kick things off here, I'd just like to offer a toast to Judie, a true bedrock of the organization. So here's to you, Judie. And with that, I'll pass it off to Shelby, or we have a video to play next. So.
I'm Judie Romeo. For 33 years, I was a volunteer assistant to our founding director, Dick Wagner. I grew up on the Mississippi River, and my granddad was a civil engineer who loved small boats. And so he used to take us down to the marinas. Rock Island, Illinois, believe it or not, used to have a fairly big boat building industry. They built houseboats, and then they built small things like Rynells and Thompsons and Hackercraft. And that area was also the scene of some of the very first hydroplane races. So I grew up knowing and loving small boats. And I came out to Washington in the 70s as the chief of protocol for the World's Fair, which meant I traveled to Seattle a lot. And I just fell in love with being around the water. So I schemed for being on Lake Union. And our Western Washington was at that time the president of Northwest Seaport. So he got me to volunteer chipping paint on the old San Mateo Ferry, and I met Dick Wagner, and I did a little bit of work on the publication Shavings, that we used to hand out at the festival. And one day I said to Dick, I'm here so much I might as well volunteer. And the next day I was a membership lady. And it's just been wonderful ever since. I've done practically every job you could do except be a lead boatwright. I've worked in the livery, I've worked in the boat shop, I have worked at the front desk, I've trained people for damn near every job here, and I have cleaned the boathouse more times than I'm the chief toilet snaker. Toilets clogged, go call Judy. It's great to be here. It's wonderful to be around the boats, and it's wonderful to be around the people. And you couldn't work for Dick Wagner without getting a reverence for what we do here, because we're preserving the skills and the talents that have built these boats, not just for years, but for centuries. And we're preserving a way of life that shouldn't go away because it's basic, and we're all having fun doing it.
You're not.
And you couldn't ask for more.
You're not.
Hey, this is Shelby, Center for Women Boats. Sorry, that was special to see her again. You can see everyone. Can you guys hear me? One screen's telling me I'm muted. Okay. And it's special to see her again. And I'm sorry I didn't expect to get choked up, but seeing everyone here is really special. And Tom and Debbie really got me with the toy boat and the collage there. So I've been a little emotional since that. Yeah, I think I was going to list like stuff that she was really integral in, but in her own words was a little bit better. She also was very integral with shavings. She was a journalist and first got her start here in Seattle with Northwest Yachting. Everyone knew that as well. I think the main thing though was her work with toy boat storytime and toy boat building. But Judy, I think her main part with the Center for Women Boats was being a cheerleader for like everyone. And if she was cheerleading for you, it was very special. For me, she was a huge cheerleader for my art and helped get me my art in the Wooden Boat magazine, and that was very special. I am now a member of the Outshow board, and there's a couple people on that here tonight, so that's really neat. Judy just really believes in Center for Women's mission, and you couldn't talk to her and not get a sense of that. So my main project right now is restoring the Boathouse and returning the library, and I spent a lot of time talking to Judy about that, and she was so dedicated to seeing that return to a place that she called home. So every time I'm working on that, it's really special place to think about her. If you can, please stick to the end for a special dedication for that. And I'm gonna pass it to Callisto now.
Good evening. I'm Callisto, former visitor services at Center for Wooden Boats, and my current essential job is a funeral director and embalmer intern at MB Daniel Mortuary Services in Renton, Washington. And I'm here to deliver a personalized eulogy to Judie Romeo. During my time at Center for Wooden Boats, she was very instrumental to my growth. And up until my last days at CWB, she really helped me understand what my future would be. And in June, I lost my father-in-law and came back and had met with Judy, or not, I hadn't come back. It was in December after I lost my mother-in-law, I came back, and I helped her with probably her last third Friday. But I remember having been in the boat shop towards my end of my time at the Center for Wooden Boats. And I always asked where Judie was because she always made my day. But here is her eulogy. Judie Romeo was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1943. She was a free-spirited woman, though you might not know that unless you took some time to sit down and share her stories that she had to tell. And she always did have stories to tell. Judie moved to Seattle and to assist with Seattle's World's Fair, as she mentioned in her video, and during her time as an event planner in that stead, became well known in Seattle's boating community. Judie was well known as Dick Wagner's personal assistant. We miss him as well. There were stories that when the old wooden boathouse used to have a night watch about 3 years ago when Clay Gustavus came on as the night watch staff again, that Judie would watch the boats at night as she'd sleep on a couch at the top of the stairs in the old boathouse to ensure that folks would not try to come in to disturb the boats. She shared stories of boats that had come and gone at the Center for Wooden Boats and played an important role in assisting with the youth field trips. It was not unusual when a volunteer or staff was struggling, especially when it came to personal losses and career changes, for Judie to offer that listening ear when asked for advice. Judie was stoic and traditional in her ways, something that those brought up in different times might find difficult to comprehend. And she really was one of those people that kind of held that rigidity that we so much need today. But with that traditional aspect on life came ways that could have a new perspective and understanding of all people. I wasn't afraid and ashamed to let her know that I was trans. I wasn't afraid to let her know of me being adopted. And she shared stories that helped us kind of meet that gap. And memorializing her today, even several months after her passing, on the day of Child's Grief Day and Transgender Day of Remembrance, I think it's happening for a reason. However, whenever a volunteer or staff member welcomed a new child into the family, Judie was there to not only teach them, but to help watch them and provide them a mastered interest of boats. Judie held many roles during her time at Center for Wooden Boats, from the visitor services to groundskeeping to tugboat storytime teller and events planning. But the role that she was best known for was reaching out to sailors, educators, and historians in the wooden boat community, regardless of her health, regardless of the weather, making Third Friday Speaker Series happen. With the loss of Judie on Saturday, February 8th of 2020, we believe that remembering her with the Third Friday Speaker Series, where we share stories and times with one another, is that she would have wanted. Photography wasn't something that Judie particularly liked, but words were something that she never had a shortage of. Rest soundly, dear friend, and let the wind guide you on till tomorrow. I do have one more thing that I wanted to share, which is a passage from a song. Normally I would play a song for you all, but I'm going to share that passage. And I did also want to offer, since I'm from Chicago myself, that the next time I'm in Illinois, if we do know where her gravesite is, to take a toy boat and lay that there in her memory if somebody wants that. So to conclude, sail on, Silver Girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. Your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. If you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind. Like a bridge over troubled water, I'll ease your mind. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will ease your mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Callisto. So at this point, we would like to open it up to people who would like to share memories. And the first person that we have is Diane Lander. So I will unmute you. This room is so huge right now. I'm trying to find you. There you go.
Hi, I unmuted myself. Hi, my name's Diane Lander, and I'm a recent recruit to the board of the Center for Wooden Boats, and I think I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm a wooden powerboat owner, and I got to know Judie quite a few years ago, but better over in recent years. She recruited me to speak at the Third Friday series on my boat that I formerly owned, the Olympus, which was a 1929 97-foot fantail motor yacht. And so I spoke at Third Friday about the history of the yacht and really enjoyed it. And through that process, I got to know Judie a lot better. And as Commodore of the Classic Yacht Association, we have held many events at the Center for Wooden Boats. And we held our change of watch banquet in January of 2019 when I was sworn in as Commodore of the Classic Yacht Association, and at the Wagner Education Center and also at the old Boathouse. And I worked very closely with Judie on both of those events. And I just remember that she had a lot of rules and requirements about how things were supposed to be done around there. And since Classic Yacht Association never seemed to be able to pay whatever Center for Wooden Boats charged for the facility use fee, we were usually managing to get in there for free because of our mutual interest in wooden boats. So I was always very careful to make certain that everything that Judie told me about how we were supposed to leave the place or what we were supposed to do. And I got all these guys from Southern California to haul away all the garbage and recycling because she said I couldn't leave anything down by the old Boathouse because there was going to be another event the next day. She was so dedicated to the Center for Wooden Boats and so dedicated to the mission and the history. And I love how she always handled all the arrangements for the Quick and Daring during the festival. That was so much fun. And I'm really going to miss Judie. She was a kindred soul with a real love for wooden boats, just like I have. Clear back in 2009 when I lost my husband really suddenly, and I didn't know her that well then, she sent me a sympathy card, and I'll just never forget how kind she was. So I'm going to take my winter campaign thing that I got in the mail for the end of the year fundraising campaign, and I'm going to make a donation in honor of Judie for $500. And I hope that I hope that a lot of people on this call and a lot of people that knew Judie will also contribute, because in these tough times, we all need to really support important nonprofits that do the important work. And Center for Wooden Boats is hanging in there, and I'm so thrilled. And I can't wait to be more involved on the board, but I'll always really remember Judie for her kindness and her dedication. So I'm thrilled to be able to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. That was very generous of you. Next, we have John Snow. So,
actually, it's Denise Snow.
oh, okay.
My husband got his name on the Zoom somehow, but no, Denise Snow. I'm also a former board member, was a board member for quite some time, and took over the role of, or actually maybe created the role of, as they called it, auction queen. And Judie and several other people worked with me diligently year-round for about 10 years on the auction to raise a lot of money. And the thing about Judie is that I couldn't have done it without her and many other people, but she was really such a behind the scenes person, and she organized donations, and she worked on twisting arms of people in the community, and she knew a lot of people, and to donate to the auction. And she was just instrumental in making that auction work. And she and I became good friends during that time, and she promoted a lot of young people, my daughter Tori included, that Tori worked with her and a number of other young people to help put the auction on behind the scenes. And so over the years, Judie and I became very good friends, and she introduced me to some places, Snappy Dragon, the restaurant on Roosevelt, and she was very dedicated to supporting Fair Start also. And I went there with her a number of times, and and she and I and her sister Sue, I hope Sue's on the line here, but we went to Protection Island. We pooled our money at the auction and bought a trip to go to Protection Island. And, it was a fabulous, fabulous trip. So anyway, I can't even say how much I miss Judie. She and I were very good friends, and we laughed and talked and gossiped about all kinds of things. But I miss her even almost a year later. I miss her tremendously, her stories, and just the funny things that made me laugh. She, I think, was an unsung hero in a lot of ways. There are a lot of good dedications here toward her, but I think she was an unsung hero. She did so much for the Center for Wooden Boats that I knew about, that I think many people did not know. And it makes me glad to have been her friend. And I just have to say that every now and then, because she was one of a kind, every now and then I'm out and about and I see somebody from a distance and I go, oh, Judie, somebody who looked like Judie, and it makes me almost cry. I think we lost a treasure. She was a treasure for the Center for Wooden Boats, and she will be tremendously missed. She is tremendously missed. Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Harvey. I think you have to unmute yourself, Harvey. It's not letting me unmute you.
Unmute. There. Is that any better?
Perfect.
Must be. I can hear the echo. Okay. Yeah. I've been around the center for a long time. But the only person on this phone call that I know has been here longer that I know is Dave Erskine. My first meeting with Judie was in, I think it was like 1989 or 1990. I was helping with livery, and there was a boat coming in too fast and it was going to run into the dock. I ran out to the dock to catch it, and Judie ran out the door and said, "No running on the dock." And she had the best interest of the center in mind, so I stopped. But no, I worked with Judie a lot on all sorts of things. I worked with Judie and Colleen a lot with Discovery Modeler. We set up many things together. But the two things that I wanted to mention, or the one thing I want to mention to two people. One of the last phone calls I had with Judie after Colleen passed away was she called me and she said that Josh had called her asking for her blessing to proceed to volunteer as the director, or to be the executive director of the Center for Wooden Boats. She also said that Clay had also requested her blessing to go out on the board of the Center for Wooden Boats, and she started crying both times. And I thought that was one of the sweetest things I'd seen. So that's about all I have right now. I mean, there are so many memories, I just can't organize them all. But thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Next we have Anne Sophie. Anne Sophie, I think your mic's not working, even though you're unmuted. Nope, still can't hear you. Okay, well, we'll come back to you while you can troubleshoot that. Okay, sounds good. Okay, next we have Mark Lentini. See, we can find Mark. Are you still on the call, Mark? Oh, there he is. Yep.
There we go. I was getting a message saying the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. So that may have been what happened with Anna Sophie. In the meantime, I'm probably going to babble a bit, Anna Sophie, so you have some time to get the mic sorted out. So Judie, my stories about Judie are pretty intertwined with me arriving and finding my way in Seattle now 25 years ago. I was a sailor from the East Coast, and I had grown up around boats, and I guess I just kind of fetched up at CWB when I got here. And like, I don't know if it's like a lee shore for wayward sailors or what, but in those days, we didn't have volunteer orientations. We didn't have like a sign up process. It was more like the volunteers were the side of venison thrown into the lion cage at the zoo. And Judie found me quickly. There were sort of the pillars of the center who went around looking for fresh meat like me. And so Vern had me signed up for race committee and sailing instruction and like 4 other things. And Judie had a way with sales, because she said, "Hey, do you want to come and help me with this garage sale?" And if she had said, "Hey, do you want to hang out in a semi-abandoned rundown building full of old boat parts and rat poop for 3 days," I probably wouldn't have jumped in. But she said, "Hey, do you want to come help me with the sale?" So, yeah, I was looking to meet people and get involved in the center, and seemed like a good idea. But I did get to spend 3 days with her that year in a semi-rundown, half-abandoned building full of rat poop and old boat parts. And she took me under her wing at that point. And over the next months, kind of schooled me up on what it meant to be a Center for Wooden Boats volunteer, and what it meant to be a part of CWB, and what CWB was about. Somewhere around, it was probably this time of year, because I was still unemployed, so I had time on my hands. She said, "Oh, by the way, there's this thing where all the 20 of us are going to go up to a boat in Bellingham, and we're going to bring it back to Seattle." Like, big boat if it's going to take 20 of us. But the way she said it was, in her very Judy kind of way. It wasn't the hipsters now call it being voluntold. But it was like, "I'd really like your help with this, but you're going to do this." So I did. And what ultimately happened was 20 of us were in the main stateroom or in the dining room of Zodiac, and telling jokes that shouldn't be repeated because there might be kids on the call and drinking a whole lot of beer. And many of those folks are still friends today, are people I hang out with now 25 years later. So Judie was, for me, she was kind of that connector of people and personalities and the center, and how the person who sort of watched out to see if there were folks who needed to find somebody to hang out with. She was ever the champion for volunteers, connecting me with this. I didn't know what Zodiac was when I got here, so I do now. I did after that. Connecting us with volunteers with opportunities to do really great stuff. And over the years, I just kept getting calls from her that went something like, hey, we need toy boats done at this event or that event. And so there I was, like, slinging toy boats with 3-year-old kids for the weekend. But I'll always remember that role in the space for connecting volunteers and connecting people and sort of driving that community that the Center for Wooden Boats represents for so many of us. So thanks, Judie.
Thank you. Should we give this a go again, Anne-Sophie? I think it's your mic. Sorry. Okay. Zoom. You would think we would get better at this after 8 months. Next we have Lisa.
Did you call on me? I think I lost connection, so I didn't hear. Well, I don't even know where to start. The list is long and it was very hard to see the video. So good to see so many of you. Her heart was jumping with joy. My first week, I remember Brant saying of starting at Center for Wooden Boats. I was in finance there and had the joy of sharing my office with Judie for a long time and a very close friend. And I remember Brant saying, now, you know, Judie likes to talk a lot, so don't feel bad if you have to tell her you're working, and so she'll quit talking to you. And of course, sometimes that was an issue because her and I could get to be chatting and I had a lot of things to do, but it was also very special because Dick had passed and there was so much I didn't know about the center. And she, of course, had all the stories to share. Colleen and her were always working on a project. So I got to know Colleen very well because they were always chatting right next to my desk, and I got to learn all the stories and learn about the projects. And she just is one of those people that if she loved you, she would move a mountain for you. She would get you lunch. She would, you know, she would bend over backwards. Colleen wasn't really strong at computer skills, so Judie would be up late at night typing things for her all the time for the Discovery modelers. When we had board meetings, she would always get Bob gluten-free food because it was pizza night at the board meeting, but she wanted to make sure he had something to eat. We didn't have a really good mail system, and she would always offer to drop the mail off every night, which is about 20 minutes away, you know, over by Key Arena. I was trying to write down a few other things. Acho, oh my gosh, I'm so glad, Shelby, you're doing that. That was just the biggest thing to her heart. She would plan their meals, their fundraising things down to the last detail. She was always about saving money. And if you know, she didn't have a lot of money, but she would just give and give and give. She bought coffee with her own money. She a lot of times bought Colleen's tickets to the, you know, breakfast, I can't think of what it's called, breakfast for kids for the auction. She'd buy desserts for the auction. And it wasn't like she was rich, but she she just wanted to give it. She wanted to give it back as much as she could. When I'm trying to remember, looking at my cheat notes, I was in a car accident and we had a board meeting coming up. And I couldn't drive because I was in the car accident. She came and got me so that I could come down and have a meeting with the staff so I could get ready for the board meeting. And she continued, she goes, I'll drive you anywhere, I'll drive you. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in a car with you again. I was just in a car accident. And she just be plugging along the street, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be in the car again. Anyways, she knew I was sad to leave the Center for Wood Boats, and we would talk after I left, and she would fill me in what Ned was doing, what Shelby was doing, what Josh was doing, how good Sandy was fitting in. I mean, she just loved you all. So many faces on here. The last time I spoke to her was like in January, but she called me right before she passed. And my biggest regret is I didn't get, we always have those regrets. I didn't get to call her back, but she loved all the stories about, she never tired out, thought they were as wonderful as I did. She just, kind of took me in as like, I don't know, like a kid she didn't have. One year she bought me this puzzle. It's a puzzle for Ketchikan. And that's where I'm from. She's just thoughtful. I'm gonna miss her. I do miss her. So thank you.
Thanks, Lacey. Then next we have Brent.
Thank you, Sandy. Hi, I'm Brent Morris, and I recognize a lot of the people here. Lacey, you reminded me, I've forgotten about this, but I live up in Anacortes, and Judy used to offer to drive me to and from Anacortes to come to Third Fridays, which she was amazing. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, was because I kind of knew her through Third Friday. And I was there late to the game. Like, I showed up pretty much, I think, during her last year of doing Third Fridays, maybe a little bit before that. And she was just so good. I could tell, at leveraging her connections to bring around all kinds of these interesting speakers and topics to Third Fridays, and sometimes twice and on short notice when schedules changed. And I just kind of thought that I use the words vibrant and harmoniously eclectic here to describe not only the topics but also the people who showed up at those things. She really attracted a great and even just walk-ins too. She'd do what she could. And I noticed by the time I'd kind of started coming, she was starting to struggle with the setup and the takedowns. So we started doing it together, and we kind of got to bond through that process. And I got to meet a lot of the CWB people, including Callisto. And at the same time, I knew she would have done it on her own if she had to. She was just, no matter how long it might have taken or how much pain it might have caused her, she was just 100% committed to making it happen every Third Friday. And with all the orders and just the right places, and with the projector beaming a perfect rectangle onto that screen, it was always just, she ran a real tight ship. And I know I see a lot of comments like that. And so I think we're all really gonna miss the way, she ran that program. And I'm grateful that we have an opportunity to make a special dedication to her tonight. So thank you, Sandy, and thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brent. Next we have Devin Lyles.
There we are. Hi, my name is Devin Lyles. Well, Sophia. I started coming up to CWB about 5 or 6 years ago for the first garden festival that sort of worked out well. We had 3 boats. It was very cool. That's where I met Judy.
One option I found is TD Garden on Legends Bay in Boston. Want to try that one?
we have Alexa talking too.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
No, Alexa, go away.
The next one, it's the garden room
Oh,
at Point Fosdick Drive,
All
Northwest Gig Harbor. About 6 miles to your west, and it gets 4.5
I'll be back.
stars. It's open today.
I'll be
from 10
back.
o'clock to 8.
That's the best interruption I've seen in Zoom in a while. Okay, so Debbie, do you want to go next? We have you.
You want to try it again?
Oh, okay.
All right.
Devin, sorry.
Yeah, I think we got it made. So that was fun. Anyway, Judy came right up to the boat, and we just started gabbing and talking about boats, and then we took off, or my wife and I took off, and we came back for the Wooden Boat Festival. And as soon as we got lines down, there was Judy, and we talked for probably half an hour, 45 minutes. Next year, Judy comes down again, and we had her dogs with us, and the dogs, Dimitri and Giselle, just fell madly in love with her. And but I always look forward to the conversations. I always look forward to see her come down as soon as we get the boat secured, and talking with her for seemed like hours on end, even though it wasn't. And I miss her very much. I wish her Godspeed and smooth waters. Thanks. Baby.
Thanks, Devin. Okay, Debbie.
You got us? Okay, so of course you can see our little tribute tonight. One of my favorite pictures of Judy at one of the toy boat festivals. And a couple pictures of her with Tom's daughter, and of course one with my mom. And I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. This is like several of you have spoken, and all of us know that if anything, she stood out other than her organization and her personality and stuff was the toy boats, and she always supported that. She always came down to when we did the Folk Life festival, and she'd be down there, right there, helping everybody and getting right into it. Debbie's mom, before she passed, she donated bags and bags of material that she had sewn with, and Judy would come down and help Mom cut all the material up as little sails and stuff. She was, I mean, from that small infantile piece of commitment to running programs there, that was Judy to the tilt. My daughter has some health problems and deformities and whatnot, and I bring her up for the festivals, and Judy's always there. She's always talking about her, asking about her. And the last one we had in September, Emily was here, and that's a picture. In fact, that was what the video was tonight. But I remember, I came in 1997, sat on the end of the dock one night, watching the planes come in and land, and Judy came walking out there and invited me into the place, into the Center for Wooden Boats, and I said, sure, you know, I like to sail, and I started there, and she all of a sudden got me into the festivals, and I've been doing it for 20 years now, building toy boats with everybody else, all the other volunteers. And if anything, to me, in my heart, Judy is Miss CWB. She's an icon, and somebody else said she's oh, I forget what the words were, but everything you guys have said is Judy. I miss her. I loved her. She was a fantastic human being, and you know, as you could tell, if she liked you, she liked you. But if she didn't like you, she had nothing to do with you. You know, and that's good. I mean, I love the honesty in a person like that.
Yeah, I think, you know, like when I first met her and we were doing toy boats, it was like, oh, you don't want to get on this lady's bad side. That she was always bragging about how much money she would make doing toy boats, and but I was, you know, competitive.
How much donations?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna make more money, and I remember at Folk Life we made like $1,000 in 2 days, and she was like, oh, that's more than I made of the $600 one or whatever. But
Yeah, but she'd
Yeah.
always come down and count the cash.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she'd come down, unlock the box, those old red boxes we have, and she'd sit there and count the cash. There was no end to what she would do. It was just remarkable.
And every time we would go into the boathouse, you know, and go upstairs to see her, she'd be working her butt off on something.
Yeah.
Whether it was cataloging books or, you know, cleaning windows in Dick's office, you know, or hanging Christmas decorations, you know.
Or the library, and I'm glad. I think it was Shelby. You said that you're working on that project, and that's great. That would warm her heart for sure.
Bottom line is, she had the biggest heart, and the thing that touches me most is she always asked about my mom when my mom got Alzheimer's, and my mom made this boat one Christmas, and right before she got sick, and Judie always asked about her. Just love her.
Yeah.
Miss her.
Yeah. Thank you, though. It's so good to see everybody. I can't wait till we all get back together and run into one another from time to time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is really touching to see everybody in this room right now. It's hard for us to get together under these circumstances, but it is really nice to see everyone's faces. It's been a really long time. Next we have Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice Stenstrom, and I really don't know a whole lot of you, and that's because I know Judie in a little bit different way. It was obvious that Center for Wooden Boats, that had the special place in Judie's heart. There was no doubt about that, but Judie's heart was big enough to have spaces for more than one. And ACHO was a place that she came and gave of herself in a lot of ways. Lacey mentioned her with our awards celebration. And, you know, the first year she volunteered to take over the awards celebration, and, you know, you're sort of like, okay, so what are you going to do, you know, Judie? And she goes, well, let's see, I'll get the venue, and I'll work with the caterer, and I'll get the PowerPoint, and I'll get the programs printed, and I'll get their certificates printed. And it's like, I'll serve on the awards selection committee. And it's like, okay, you're like taking this over. And it was just, as the president of the organization, I was like, oh my gosh, I have someone who is like going to run with this, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it well, and they're going to have everything done on time. And it was just like a wonderful experience to get to work with Judie because she was so competent. And in addition to the competency, she just made it fun. Like, we'd be working on something and she'd say, this reminds me of, and then, you know, there would be a little story, right? And we would, you know, just laugh and chuckle and have a good time. So it didn't seem as much like work. It was more of a, we're working together on something and we're becoming friends. And that made it really special. And she did other things besides, you know, the awards thing. We were looking for a space in Seattle to have a workshop on mount making. And the Wagner Center had just recently opened, and she's like, oh, we have this great classroom and it'll work really well. And so she was always looking to make things better for people. And I think that's the thing I'm going to remember about Judie, is that she was just very selfless, and whatever she could do to help, she did, and made it fun in the process. So I'm just happy that Judie was in my life for a while.
Thank you, Alice. Next we have Larry and Ruth.
Hi there. You know, I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Lake Union, and we have met at the Center for Wooden Boats on Friday mornings ever since we formed back in 2007, I think. And we've done many projects with the Center for Wooden Boats. We've done projects to work on educating kids, and our mission is water-related projects and at-risk children. In the last few years, we've had what we call happy hours for good on the dock on Thursday evenings in the summer. And the story I want to tell you about Judie is, I've heard you talk about how stern a taskmaster she could be, and for sure she was, because one of the days it was windy and rainy, so we had got some tents and we were trying to fasten them down to the deck so that the wind wouldn't blow them away. And Judie came running down there and said, "You will not put screws in that deck. It's going to destroy it." And so we didn't know what to do, and it forced us to actually design a new little hook that we could hook the tents down to the dock without damaging the deck boards. But you know, I always respected Judie because she was always looking out, not only for the Center for Wooden Boats, but she looked out for us. If we needed something, she was out there finding it for us. And so we had to work really hard to make sure that we left every time we had a meeting. We had to work really hard to make sure it was cleaned up, and for the next group was coming in, it would be clean for them. But Judie worked for us whenever we needed it. So we're looking forward to being back with you folks whenever the situation allows. But we'll miss Judie. She was awesome.
I got to know Judie about 5 years ago. I'm also in the Rotary Club. And we were doing Santa on the dock on Sundays. And the Santa on the dock was my baby, and she was in charge of what was going on there on the weekends. And so I was negotiating with her and whatever. And we would come to a decision about, well, could we do this? No, you can't do that on the dock. Well, could we do hot chocolate? No, you can't have food on the dock. And what if we do something pre-packaged? No, because then the paper will fall in the water. Okay. So we got past all that part, and we worked with her pretty well. We had kids coming to Santa, sitting on Santa's lap in the little, I forget, that little house out there on the dock. I can't remember what it's called. But these same tents that Larry was talking about, when it was cold, because we're doing Santa on the dock in December. So even in Seattle, it can be cold. So we'd put up the tents, and we were going to put up a small tent, and Santa wanted to put up a big tent, and we would have some very interesting discussions. So I spent a fair amount of that time sort of walking a very thin line between Santa wanting to do one thing and Judie wanting me to do another thing. And I remember, as everybody said, you got to do what she says you got to do, but she's got a big heart. So as long as we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, she'd do whatever to help us. And in some of those times working together, I too heard some of these stories about, back in the World's Fair days and all kinds of stories. So yeah, I miss her. I got to be one of the people that she liked. So yeah, she was very kind to me and mostly helpful with Santa on the dock when she and Santa weren't having their moments. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Ruth and Larry. Next we have Clay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clay Gustavus. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Trustees and also the Night Watchman. I started volunteering here in about 2009, teaching sailing lessons. So I've known Judie for a while. I became the Night Watchman in 2017, and there are often occasions when I'd come home from work late, or maybe come home from having a refreshment late, and I'd run into Judie either upstairs or on the dock, and sometimes I'd scare her half to death, and that always worried me when I was coming home if I saw her car in the parking lot, because I didn't want to scare her to death. But I heard a lot of her stories, and I don't think she repeated one twice. I really miss her. Sometimes she'd have a bunch of stuff she needed to carry out to her car or whatever. She'd just be sitting outside on the dock on one of the benches, like 9 o'clock at night in the dark, just enjoying the peace and quiet. And we had a lot of conversations, and yeah, she has been and will continue to be missed.
Thank you, Clay. Next we have Barbara.
Thank you. So I knew Judy through ACTShow. For a long time, I edited Heritage Advisor, which is the online newsletter. And I wrote something about the Center for Wooden Boats, one issue. And I heard back from this person. It came from Dick Wagner's email, but it was from Judy apparently. And it was, just wanted you to know that the Center for Wooden Boats has a capital T in the Center for Wooden Boats. So I'm kind of persnickety about language. And so I apologize profusely because I like to get things right. Well, sure enough, the next month I did it again, another small T. And I heard from Judy again. And I had never met her in person, but I was kind of living in fear at this point. And then a few months after that, I realized we came out from an ACTShow meeting in the morning, and she was Dick Wagner's taxi service. When he was on the board for ACTShow, she would drive him, and sometimes Alice Winship too. And so I came out, and there was this woman, had been sitting out in the parking lot the whole time. This was before she was on the board herself, sitting out in the parking lot, just waiting, because she was so giving, just waiting until the meeting was over and Alice and Dick would come out. And that's the first time I met her. I just want to leave you with a final image, which is after one of those big ACTShow meetings, I think it was maybe at the Museum of Flight or something, a ACTShow annual meeting. And sure enough, she was giving Dick and Colleen Wagner and Alice Winship a ride back into town. And I was right behind them as we were in the car getting back on the freeway and stuff. And for those of you who remember dear Alice Winship, she wears these long dresses, and a big length of her dress was hanging out the door of the car. And they were going in this big circle, getting onto, this big round thing, getting back onto I-5. And there they were, the four of them in that car. And I just think of, maritime, the maritime, preeminent people of Seattle were there in the car, and Alice Winship's skirt was flapping all the way back to Seattle. I miss them all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barbara. The editing story. If there's anybody else that wants to speak, feel free to type your name into the chat box. I was going to share something really quick, since the editing story reminded me of my experience with Judy. I only worked with Judy for a couple of years, but she was actually the person who did my volunteer orientation when I first came to CWB a few years ago. And I think Cassandra was out or something, but I remember the first thing she said was that she opened the whole orientation with, "I have a secret, guys." She did a really long dramatic pause, and she goes, "I'm a power boater." And I just thought it was so funny. I just thought she was just this hilarious woman. And then I ended up working at CWB, and Judy was really good at making sure that we were always on our toes, and all of our spelling was correct, and she was always checking in on me with festival things. And it was funny because I think she and I kind of butt heads a lot, but I think that she did it because she really wanted the festival to be perfect and the best version every year. It should be better. And so I really appreciated that about her. And I remember after organizing my first festival, she had brought in flowers and left them on my desk as like a thank you sort of thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think Judy likes me. And it was really fun. But I see there's some hands raised. So Dave Erskine, do you want to go next?
Good evening, all. Judy was a mixed bag, and I mean this to say she could elicit the best from you or piss you off. And if you knew the essential Judy, you accepted that and worked towards essentially what was she worked for, which was the greater good for the center. And she could be very loyal. Dick and Colleen and many others saw that she was, and she fought for you. But you got on her wrong side. So not trying to emphasize too much negative about her, but just the reality. And we all have our foibles. So, but there were times when I would love to have strangled her. At the same time, I was doing what she asked. So how does that work? But, you know, an organization like this kind of engenders that in a lot of people. I would never know about that myself much, but my eulogy to her is we were her family. She had very little elo as far as I knew, and she was very passionate. And if any of us have just a small degree of her kind of energy towards an organization or others, then we are a good person. And Judy was very much that. So, love you, dear. Sail well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Next we have John. Well, it's not John, but
No, it's Denise. I'm gonna have to talk with him about this. He took over my Zoom account, but anyway, that's my husband. But you know, I want Dave Erskine. I don't see you, but I know you know me, and I agree with you. But at the same time, you know, Judy was a person who had a heart of gold and always had absolutely the best intentions for CWB and for any project that she was working on. Erin Hatch, are you agreeing with me on this? I know. I mean, she had a heart of gold. And I know that there were people who sometimes didn't agree with her. Well, I mean, of course, I mean, that's human nature, but she was absolutely, in my mind, a wonderful person. She was a really good friend of mine, and, you know, I will miss her always. Right, Erin? She wasn't always an easy person, but you know what? Look at what she did. Look at how she was able to pull people together and to get people to dedicate themselves to this organization. And I will always appreciate that about her, and I will always appreciate, how it was. I had a loving friendship with her. She was, I thought, just really great. And like I said before, I cry sometimes when I see people who look like her from a distance there, and I see you smiling about it. But I know we had the same kind of friendship with her, and I miss her. And so thank you for doing this. It's been almost a year, and I've wanted to have some kind of dedication to Judy, who was, she was a force to be reckoned with, and I'm glad a lot of people recognize that. I love her. I love her dearly, and I miss her dearly. So that's it right now.
Sandy, can I go next?
Sure. I don't know who's speaking, but yes.
It's Erin, who Denise is
yeah.
referencing. Yeah. There's lots of stories I could tell about Judie. And as Denise mentioned, she and I had a close friendship and relationship. And I have to just say that many of you have mentioned her proofreading edits. And that was my first connection with Judie, that I was the communications coordinator, AmeriCorps volunteer in 2008. And then I worked at the center for about 4 years. And Judie always edited all of my writing. And the very first interaction we had, she had found, it was probably an Oxford comma issue or something, but she just went nuts. And I was like, this woman, what is wrong with this woman? I was in tears. And like, people don't usually upset me, but she really upset me. And it was a touch and go there at the beginning, but that was totally Judie. She just cared so much about getting things right and making sure that the center looked professional all the time. So she really cared about every single newsletter that went out, every issue of Shavings, everything had to be perfect. But just to kind of come full circle, so I left the center and went on to work. I work at an architecture firm now. I do marketing, and I stayed in touch with Judie. We'd have lunch at Portage Bay Cafe every so often and stay in touch, and she'd keep me in the loop about what was happening at the center. And our thing was that we would go estate sailing together, and she loved to go estate sailing. And so she would pick me up at my house. I lived in an apartment in Lower Queen Anne. I didn't have a car. And she'd print out the directions to all the estate sales she had found in the region for the day, and we'd go around town and we'd go to all these estate sales. And I always assumed she was just kind of, she had a side hustle of like selling stuff on eBay, and it was just her like way to make money on the side or whatever. And so it wasn't until she passed away, Denise and I were helping to clean out her apartment because she had lots of stuff, and I knew she had lots of stuff because we had gone estate sailing together, and I knew she lived in a small apartment. And going through her stuff, and Denise will testify to this, I really realized every single thing she bought was to sell, to make money, to donate to the center, or to donate to a cause she cared about. And her house is full of stuff that she was like gonna make, money on, so that she could put it into treasure sale or sell it or whatever. And it was really just so that she could continue to give back to the center and to the causes she cared about. So every ounce of her being was really dedicated to other people. It was really incredible. She just was an amazing person, and like Denise and so many of us, I think about her a lot and I miss her a ton. And she taught me a ton, and I cherish the memories of her that I hold. So thank you so much for putting this together. It's been really delightful to hear everyone's stories.
Thanks, Erin. Next we have Christian.
I don't even know how to start. How do I do it?
You're starting.
Oh, am I just like
yes,
that?
You're going.
Okay, so my name's Christian. I'm from the Lotus, and I've known Judie for a very long time, a really long time. In fact, I was trying to remember how long she's been at the center, and I just hopped on because I was out of town and I just came in home. So did anybody tell us how long Judie's been at CWB working with Dick?
About 34 years.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. So I've been on the lake since I was 11 years old, and with Lotus. And that's about the time I met Judie, because that's about the time we met Dick. No, it must have been later. But anyway, I can't do that math right now. But I wanted to tell you a couple things. She loved to come to Lotus for tea. She loved it. She felt queenly, and she told such great stories. And she never came when there were other people. It was just her and I. But it was always really sweet. And she loved to sit there and just watch the boats too. She liked the vantage point, the being up on the deck. She loved the nice dishes. She loved the pretty treats, and she was a treat herself. And I was just thinking about how she also was this, she also had this very rough and ready side. She'll go anywhere with her sleeping bag, and she would show up at our shop in Port Townsend And sometimes it was Wooden Boat Festival and sometimes it wasn't. And she just came for a visit. And because we live in a little house, she didn't mind a bit. I would drag a mattress out of the upstairs where Brian would take his naps. And she couldn't do the stairs so well. So I would bring it down the stairs and leave it on the floor, make up a little nest for her in the shop. And she was quite happy sleeping right there by the fireplace. She just really was like a kid, and come see her in the morning and everything would be spit spot, and she'd have her coffee. She was such a fun person to be with. Nothing was too much trouble. And she was just very real. And she loved that Friday speaker thing, and your programs, Friday speakers, and I loved going to those because she always organized them so well. And Brian loved her, and he came and did many talks for you guys there, and so did I do one. And also I came to find out that she wrote a lot of Dick's letters for him because he did not like, apparently, to work the computer. And he would say what he wanted to say, but Judie would write the letters. And I was so pleased with the letter I got once from Dick, and I was saying that to Judie, and she got kind of shy, and she said, I actually wrote that letter for him. I mean, it was his words, but I wrote that letter for him. So she was part of it, and she liked that too. She was darling, really darling. I miss her terribly. Too sudden, too soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Christian. I saw some hands raised, so I'm going to call on those people again. Debbie, you can go next.
I just wanted, this is Tom, I just wanted to say something. Last year, I think it's she had the garland put up on the old boathouse. And, you know, that was something special to her. She went out and bought that stuff herself. Again, you know, with the center as her whole well-being. But I'm just wondering if we can do that again and just make that kind of an ongoing yearly thing. I don't know if it's up to now or not, or planning to be up, but I'd be glad to donate the money to buy the stuff if we could put it up just as an annual event in honor of Judie. It's such a beautiful sight at nighttime to see that glow, that yellow amber glow around the roof line. And you know, maybe just if she's looking down at us, maybe she'll think and say, oh yeah, wow. I don't know how to go about that. Maybe Josh, something you can think about in your team.
Yeah, we were actually just discussing that in our staff meeting this week. So we were also talking that was something that Judie had helped organize. So I'm sure we'll talk amongst ourselves to figure out how to make that happen.
Okay. I'm available to you.
Yeah, keep us in mind. We're more than willing to contribute to something.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, I see you.
Yeah, Dave, we see Dave. Dave's going to drive the machines to make happen the phone calls. Denise, I saw that your hand was up next.
Always has something to say, and that's probably why Judie and I were good friends. But couple of things. Aaron Hatch had mentioned, you know, some of the treasures that Judie had found, and God only knows where, but you know, I just want to mention that I had several years ago gone to Europe and spent a month or so there. I was in France and had mentioned going to the Louvre. And Judie, as soon as I came back, brought me these, I mean, they're treasures, I'm sure. They're probably worth a lot, these books, these sketches of pictures from the Louvre that were, I'm sure they're treasures, and I don't even want to try to value them because then I'll get a little scared. But you know, that's how she was. It's how Judie was. She loved to find things that people would appreciate, people would love, and you know, and that's one thing. that she did for me. I mean, among many, many other things, but I really want people to remember that, and I think everyone here knows that. I want people to remember that that Judie absolutely had a heart of gold, and she did. She had a heart of gold, and she had the best interest in everyone. Okay, and one more thing, because I will dominate and talk all the time, but one more thing. Erin mentioned having gone to Judie's apartment after she died, which was, God, that was tough. Erin and a few other people and I helped to clean it out, and I found a treasure. And God, should I admit it? But I think I talked to Shelby about it. But I found a journal, a couple of journals of Dick's, and I haven't had the heart since February, March. Have not had the heart to really look at it, but Judie knew what was valuable, and somehow she let me know that I needed to take that. And so I will scan it, and I will give the original to CWB. But, you know, she knew what was valuable. And somehow this is kind of woo-woo, but she kind of knew that I was the person to find it. I was the person to find that treasure. So I will, like I said, I will scan the journals for posterity, and I will make copies of that. But I, she knew, and I am so honored to have been the person to have found it, and I will not keep it. I will give it back. But she knew the value in things like that. And that's, for myself, she really knew, for lack of a better way to say it, and I'm repeating myself, but she knew what was important. And like I said, I'm honored to have been one to have found that information. So I will turn it back to CWB soon, along with the scans. But anyway, I just have to say, I think of Judie often, and I do. She was in my heart, and I do cry sometimes when I just think about, what really a wonderful person she was. And I think we all know that. That's all. That's all. I won't go on. I could go on and on, but I won't go on and on right now. She was a lovely person. She really was.
Thanks, Denise. Okay, so if there's not anybody else, Shelby, do you want to start the dedication?
Yes. I tried to write up something formal to say, and sorry for my cat. But I think we all know how important maritime history and maritime culture was to Judie. And as I stumbled through saying it earlier, we are working on renovating the Boathouse and returning the maritime library that was once a crucial part to the Center for Wooden Boats and the just community building aspect. Some of you on this call remember the library being there, and we're working on returning that library, and that's a really proud project that I get to work on, and that the center is going to be working towards bringing. So to honor Judie for all of her work and dedication to the Center for Women Boats, we will be dedicating and naming the library after Judie. So we have a plaque made for her. I can bring it into my screen here. You can see it. It's really reflective, so it's hard to read what it says, but I'll read it for you guys. This maritime library is dedicated in memory of Judie Romeo, a founding volunteer who dedicated over 30 years of her life in this building, fostering the preservation of this community by mentoring countless volunteers into what the Center for Women Boats is today. Now, we're very proud to have that dedication, and this will be upstairs, welcoming volunteers and community members into our maritime library. See everyone clapping, which is good. Yeah, it'll be, Judie will always be in the library with us, and I'm very, very, very happy with that decision and very proud to have her in there with me, everyone.
Yay. So I can open this up if anybody wants to just chat amongst each other. I know there's a lot of people who probably haven't seen each other, but we can just keep this going if people want to chat amongst each other, and we can creepily watch.
Thing that I wanted to share that came to my mind, I can't remember, Debbie, your husband's name. I've met you guys before, but when you built, when you built those boxes for the paper for her, oh my gosh, she was so happy. Like, you know, she liked to have everything just such so, but before I ever met you, she was like talking your praises. And so I just wanted to tell you that. And Erin, I still have a bowl that you and Judie went to the Ballard Community Center. Do you remember that fundraiser? It was artists who made bowls. Didn't you go to that?
Yes, keep going.
Yeah, I still have that bowl. So anyways, I wanted to tell you that. I know, so cool. Like I remember you all, but it's so nice to see the names on the screen, because I wouldn't remember Alice's last name. So that was pretty cool. So thank you, Sandy, and everyone for making this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Dave, I'm so happy to see you.
I just have to pick on Dave for a minute and say that, Dave, you're the person who would catch me on the dock, and then an hour later I would go, oh shoot, I gotta get back to work.
Yeah, him and Judie, they compete.
Yeah, you and Judie, you guys were, you both were, you can both spin a good yarn.
I'd just like to say something. Someone else has mentioned.
Oh, hi.
I'm Elsie Holsizer, and I'm a member of the board. Judie collected not just things, but knowledge. And anything you ever wanted to know about CWB, she knew. And you know, when I first joined the board, I hardly knew anything. And so I quickly learned that she was the one to ask. But one day I actually stumped her. Somebody asked, or I think Dick told me that CWB had an interpretive master plan and I should go look at it, but he didn't know where it was. So I went to ask Judie, and she said, huh? And then she said, well, I'll get back to you. About an hour later, she came to me and handed me a URL, a paper with a URL on it, and said, look here. Well, so I went there on the web, and there it was, and it's still there. And there's no, it's just a site on the web, and there's no link to CWB. But if anybody wants an interpretive master plan for CWB, all you have to do actually is Google it. And she knew the right words to Google. And so she found just what I needed. And the other thing is, Judie and I shared the fact that we were both writers. And so sometimes she would come and we'd chat about writing. And I really appreciated actually her attention to things like the right comma and so forth. I think it really made a difference.
Hi, Elsie. I agree. I had, and Aaron referred to this also, that although, you know, I was in the professional world long before I met Judie, but I soon realized that there were certain things that I had written that I needed to go to her about and to say, all right, how does this sound? And do I have my commas in the right place? And she was absolutely a master of language. And okay, so I have to tell this story now. That Judie, having been a journalist, it makes me laugh to this day. She worked in Washington, D.C. as a journalist, and I don't know what their function was exactly, but I know that she told me that at one time she was interviewing or part of an interview team for Walter Cronkite, who was my mother's heartthrob, but she was interviewing him and was sick. And oh, Judie, I'm sorry, I'm telling this story, but Judie told me about how she was there and interviewing Walter Cronkite and was so sick. And she said, and then I threw up on Walter Cronkite's shoes. And I laugh about this. She told me that a long time ago, but that was Judie. I mean, she would go to the ends of the earth to do what she needed to do. And then if she had to throw up on Walter Cronkite's shoes, oh, well, there's so many stories like that she told me that just made me laugh.
Anyone else? So quiet.
I'll say a quick thing. Sorry to
Go ahead.
Keep talking, but I just wanted to say that the Wagner Education Center recently won a state architecture award. I work at an architecture firm now, and architecture was what I studied before I worked at the Center for Wooden Boats. And I worked on the capital campaign to raise money for the Wagner Education Center when it was still just kind of a pipe dream. And Judie was really instrumental in helping to make that happen. And so in my world, getting an honor award for that project is a huge deal. And so congratulations to everybody who was a part of the Wagner Education Center. It's definitely a great honor, and Judie would be super proud to know that the building is receiving such accolades. So congrats to everybody. And if you didn't know, then FYI, it's very exciting. So cheers to that. That's something to be happy about.
Yes.
I'd like to share something if I can. Listening to all the stories and everything resonates, but there was one very specific anecdote I want to share. Right when I took on the role of ED at CWB in 2016, at the time, so Dick was, so this was July of 2016. Dick passed in April of 2017, and so it was a little over a year before that, and he was having trouble communicating. He couldn't form words very well. He couldn't put sentences. He could do it, but it just took him a long time. And he also had some pretty significant hearing loss. And he didn't like to wear his hearing aids, and I guess he had some manual dexterity issues with his hands at that point, and it was hard for him to put his hearing aids in. Several of people here have commented on Judie's connecting people and introducing people and making sure you know who you need to know and all that kind of stuff. And she definitely played that role for me as I was coming into my role. But one of the things that she did, and I knew Dick from having served on the board, I don't know, 15 years earlier or something like that. So I knew Dick, but I hadn't been close to him in recent years. And so Judie made a point of kind of pushing us together, making sure that we met once a week for an hour or two. And she would get Dick organized. She would put his hearing aids into his ears and set the two of us down. And so I had the chance then for that year of being able to share things with Dick and listen to what he had to say. And I think most of the group on here knew Dick as well. And we've talked about how Judie always had something to say and wasn't shy. If you knew Dick, this is also the case, right? So, but he hadn't been able to really express himself too much recently. And so Judie played a role in helping him express himself to me at a point when I was taking the helm at CWB. And I like to think that had a significant impact on my thought process and the decisions that I made going forward, and kind of the role I played, kind of manning the tiller. So I really appreciated having having the navigator there with me, and she did play a really important role in making that happen.
So Brent, thank you. Brent, thank you for saying that, because as I've said before, I ended up inadvertently with some of Dick's journals and some of his documents that I think Judie had protected, and they were at her house. And then when I helped to clean out her house, I found what a treasure I had. And honestly, nearly a year later, I have not had the heart to look at it. And so I will, and I will have it scanned, but I don't know who to give it to. Maybe you can help with that. I don't know who to give it to.
Shelby.
Should I give it to Shelby? I think I had mentioned it to Shelby, but literally I have it in front of me, but I don't know. I didn't know what to do with it.
I'm happy to make the scans for you and then give them back, but I'll take the originals.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The originals need to go back to the library. I don't want to be selfish about that, but I can have it scanned. I'll have, the actual John Snow. It's not just the actual. Oh, now my name is on there. But my husband can do it at his
Magic
office.
of Sandy.
I'll have him do that at his office, but there are some things that I'm sure just are just treasures. And like I said, I haven't had the heart to look at them, but I will not. I'm openly admitting I have this material, and it's because it was at Judie's apartment, and I will turn it.
Well, thank you for recovering them.
I just knew. When I saw them, I just knew. So anyway, and that was Judy. That was Judy's doing.
The magic of Judie. Yep. I think Nora has a song that she wants to play. So.
Look at that. For many of you that don't know me, my name is Nora Globally. I'm the Youth Programs Manager at the Center for Wind Boats. I came in around 2018, and I didn't know Judie very long, but she was a huge part of everything that, I did. Kept pushing me to try and get job skills back on the books of doing it. And unfortunately, it takes a lot to do that program, so we still haven't really managed to, but she was, she was very, Judie. And my instructors were very adamant about following her coffee rules. So I was always one to push them about following and making sure they were doing the right amount of scoops. So which they were not always stoked about. But I'll just play a quick couple of verses. It's a good old shanty, rolling down to old Maui, which many of you probably know. And I didn't practice, so give me a break. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic grounds, rolling down to old Maui. It's a real tough life, full of toil and strife. We whaler men undergo, and we don't give a damn when the gales are done. How hard the wind did blow, for we're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, with a good ship taut and free. And we don't give a damn when we lift our cups with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic grounds, rolling down to old Maui. So there you go, Judie. I hope you're rolling down to old Maui and enjoying the beautiful sun.
Yay, thanks, Nora. Everyone's clapping. It's everyone's silent, but everyone's clapping. Yeah. Well, if there's nothing else, Josh, do you want to conclude, or do you want to add anything?
Sure. I mean, I don't have much to add other than everybody's story. It's been great just listening to everyone speak. Just thank you so much for being a part of this. This is definitely the most successful virtual thing we've done, I think, which I think Judie would be very proud of. So thank you all for staying connected. Please come down to the library once we have it set up, and can't wait to see everyone's faces in person again. But this is great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Hi, Brad. Nice to see you.
And now it's good to see Brant too. Where'd he go?
Hi, Christian. Hi, Lacey.
Hi, Brant.
Hi, Brant.
It's great to see you. Oh.
Shelby, congratulations on your captain's license.
Oh, thank you, Lacey.
Ah, really? Fantastic.
I know.
Where's Mike White?
Finally. Oh.
Okay.
Right. Hope
Thank
to
you,
see
everyone, so much. It was really good to see you.
See you again, Lacey.
Right. Yeah, you too. Ned, I miss you. I got some goldfish for you.
It's really good to see you, Tom and Debbie.
Tom, I couldn't remember your name. Now I'm going to write it down. Oh my gosh. I hate it when I can't remember names. Anyways. All right, you guys.
Thank you very much for doing the eulogy, Cleesto.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Cleesto. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
It's probably the least religious eulogy I'll probably have to give.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
And definitely come down to the Folklife when we started again.
Oh yeah.
I was walking.
I'll make sure you guys know.
I was walking by that area sometime this summer, and it was like, how do you make it the same? And seeing your boat there and seeing you two and knowing how much you and Judie did together is like, yeah, I can go back there and be like, there's still people carrying out this mission.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And
She used to call us the king and queen of toy boat building.
Yeah. You are.
Yeah.
And please email me if you have just want updates or I don't know about anything. Just let me know.
When we can help, let me know. I'd love to help with the boathouse.
Great.
Yeah.
We're gonna put up Christmas lights at least this weekend. But if we, it kind of hit really hard this week when that came up on the calendar to put up garland.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we were like, where does the garland come from? And we realized it was Judie.
About it.
It's like, oh, and then like her memorial being today too. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, we need closed captioning for any online events. I can freelance it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's like usually people like somebody will tell you they want ASL or closed captioning, but
yeah.
My side hustle when I'm not funeral directing.
Just one last thought I'd like to share is Deb and I lost her mom and my dad and Judy in this last year and a half. And, this whole thing kind of reminds me each time I think about it that we don't say we love the person enough. We don't take the time. We think they're going to be there the next day. We think everybody's going to be there the next day. So never miss an opportunity to say you love them or you think of them or, they're special because it happens quick.
You never know. I spent the last 3 years taking care of my mom. And like I said, there was never a time when I saw Judie that she didn't ask about her.
Yeah. She was really, my dad passed away a year before she did. And she was very caring, very supportive, and like let me sit and talk with her and held my hand a lot. And it was really crucial. And I did that. I got to have a really nice talk with her a couple, like 2 or 3 weeks before she passed. And I really appreciate that sentiment, Tom. Like just taking the time to tell someone how much you care about them is really important. So you never know. No.
That was Judie's first sentiment when I took this job at CWB. She said, we're not always going to agree about everything, but I love you.
Yeah. that's perfectly Judie.
Yeah.
And I never doubted that about her. I never doubted that I knew she loved me. And I knew she loved my daughter. And, I think I referred to it before. She bent over backwards to make things work for my daughter, who is, she's kind of on the edge of the, Asperger's autism spectrum. She totally accepted my daughter. She totally accepted everything about my family. I wish I'd been able to have her move in here with us. And I mean,
Tom's daughter has some mental health issues, and he would always bring her up when we had boat festivals, whether it be 4th of July or Folk Life or any of those things. And Emily would sit at the entrance to take the donations, and she always would say, $2, and Judie would say, well, they don't have to give it, but Emily was like determined to not get by without $2.
I love it. And, I love it. And you know what? Your daughter, Emily, may have known my daughter, Tori, who they may have worked together. And, Tori did more work with Judy and with Aaron on, on the auctions and, and God, Judy was unbelievable the way she number one understood my kid who's 30 now and doing pretty well, but she understood
She was
those people who had a different a different bent on life, and she understood that, and she promoted people like that. And I was always in awe of her and what she would do that way. God, oh my God, I miss that woman. I miss her so much all the time. And I'm like you. I sometimes I think about her and I just kind of break down and go, oh, but she was a gem, and she was a gem.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that everyone knew that and realized that.
I agree.
So one of these days when all of this craziness lifts, everybody that's on the phone and on a call tonight, we have to make it a special occasion for all of us to get together in person, and kind of hug, and when we can hug again. And
yeah,
I would.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my God, I would love that. I would love it. I would love it. And I know Judy would love it too, because I think there were a lot of people who were on the call and people who appreciated her and loved her and everything. But I really want a gathering of people who just totally understood her.
I just have to show this again because this is just my favorite picture of her.
Oh my God, don't make me cry.
That is the most adorable picture I've ever seen of Judy.
It really is.
Don't make me cry. I mean,
Can you make copies of that?
Yeah, where is that photo from? I've never seen that.
It's like a festival.
Folk Life. I took it.
Yeah.
We had that old banner set up down there, and
do you have the original photo file? Like, is it digital?
And
could you send us a copy?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because we don't have very many photos of Judy for obvious reasons. She didn't like having her photo taken, but that is the sweetest photo.
That. But you know what? I have a few pictures that her sister sent me, and you have one of them. Of when she was I don't know how old she was, maybe 30 or something, I guess. But it was part of the introduction. But I have a few photos too, and so I will send. I'll send some pictures.
Yeah,
we would. Yeah.
But yes, I know she never wanted to have a picture taken. God, she was so. Her sister. I assume her sister, or maybe not. Her sister was invited to this call.
It was a couple hours later where her sister is, so maybe we should send her the recording just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, recording, nice. Well, I think she's not technologically.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't think she. Yeah.
It would be 9:30 where she's at, or 9:50 when we started.
And I know, I know that Sue, her sister Sue, I know she has a job that she has to get up for at an incredibly early time. So, I'm sure she couldn't be there, but I think she would appreciate this. and I know she would appreciate the love that came out of this. Her sister would appreciate the love. She really would.
So Sandy, how are you going to get this recording out? Will it be available to us?
Yeah, it'll be on our YouTube channel. While during COVID, we're doing all of our Third Friday speakers things virtually, and they're recorded automatically, and then I put them up online on our YouTube.
And I'll send you that picture.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be nice for us to keep for our records.
You said, just one real quick thing. She always told me, she said, you know, when my mom was going through Alzheimer's, she said, show her that picture. And she said, I hope she remembers me.
And she did.
Yeah.
And Debbie, I never met you. I don't think we've ever met, have we?
Well, I don't think so, but Tom and I did toy boat building for the last
I've been doing it since 90.
But last
1998.
Yeah, they're like the toy boat ninjas.
30 years. Well, you know, if you had gone, had you gone to the auctions? I mean, I did auctions between, I don't know. I think about 2015 until, I don't know. I don't remember how long, but.
Yeah, so 15, 16 is kind of when my mom got sick and I went back into the, you know, the state she lived in to take care of her. So, but before that, Tom and I did we would do probably 8 toy boat festivals a year, different, Ballard.
So let me just share one thing real quick. We did folk life down on the Seattle Wharf.
Yeah.
On the old creosote decking. Well, this is right after Debbie and I met, and she was living in Southern California, and she came up for a business meeting. So she asked if what I was doing. I told her doing the toy boats. I invited her down there. So, you know,
you said, what?
I'm busy with the kids and everything. And she said, well, how can I help? I said, well, you can go around and pick up the nails. 12 by 12 creosote and everything else. So she had black fingers, and boy, did I get it from Judie. She said, that's no way to treat her.
Okay.
But I stayed with him.
And so, well, all right. That's a testament to so about what years?
That was 2003.
Okay, so I was doing Girl Scouts and Center for Wooden Boats at about the same time. So you probably worked with some of my Girl Scouts.
Probably, yeah.
And on the boat building, which they loved, but so I'm sure we've met.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta go. Take care, everyone. See you guys.
Hi, Lacey.
Bye,
It's really
Lacey.
good to see
It was
you.
so good to see you.
You guys too.
Okay, are we going to be cut off?
We won't be cut off. I'll keep this going as long as that people want to keep talking.
Because you know what, I love this. I do. I love it, and I have been having, all these months. I've been so sad that we haven't been able to do anything to celebrate who Judie was.
I remember in the event planning for the memorial group that people had shared food that Judie liked preparing, and when we can meet again, we can all make a Judie trash can salad.
Well, or even that. Yes, I want to participate in that. But even that, I mentioned Snappy Draken, which was a restaurant.
It's still there. I just had it the other day. Still delicious.
They're just doing takeout. I'm sure they're just doing takeout. I haven't been there in almost a year since I went with Judy's birthday is coming up soon, but I went there a year ago with her on her birthday. But you know, I was thinking, you know, if we could do a real live get together, that would be so much fun to have some Snappy Dragon food, which she loved. And she was, as I mentioned before, such a proponent of Fair Start. I mean, of course, that was Judy, you know, to support people who were needing help. So if we ever do a gathering, a real life
I'm
gathering.
naming my boat right now.
Look at that.
Aww.
Oh,
USS Judy.
oh no.
That's
My
great.
mom made this one at one of the Christmas events down in the Boathouse.
Yes.
And we had all kinds of fun little lights and stuff. And so, in fact, I think my mom had her picture on one of the newsletters holding her boat, but it's now dedicated.
Good.
I love it.
Very great.
Okay, love you guys. Mwah. Thank you for doing this. Sandy.
Yeah, it's so good to see your faces. We really miss you guys.
You too. Take care.
Bye, Debbie.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye,
You
Deb.
too. I know I just can't. I can't give it up here, but I'm gonna have to because I know you guys need
I
it.
can see why you and Judy were such good friends.
We were really
Endless
good
energy.
friends. You know, we were really good friends. So yeah, I'm gonna let you go and go to bed and think fondly of her and thank you so much for doing this. And
Thanks for joining us. It was nice to
thank you,
meet you.
Denise.
Okay.
And I'll be in you can just email me or call me about the journals, but don't worry about it. There's no pressure.
No, I've digged stuff here. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna have to send my husband to his office tomorrow, and
just
John Snow, who was actually on here before, or his name was on here before. I will send him to get this stuff photocopy or scanned, and we'll send the originals and a copy.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You know, it's getting late. You guys are probably tired. And so,
Thanks, Denise.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sandy. That was wonderful. I'm
Thanks,
going to check out
Christian.
too. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Christian.
Shelby.
Christian.
Hi,
Thanks for
That was
joining us.
wonderful. I didn't want to leave. It was too good. Okay. Good
All the
night.
feels.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much for doing this. It just kind of does my heart good. It really does.
Yeah.
We all needed it.
I
Yes.
think we did. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. So I'll say goodbye.
Okay.
I'll go.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh.
Ah. It won't let me go away. Judy, let me go away. It's her fault, Judy. All right, bye. Bye.
That was cute.
This was like the best Zoom that we've had, I think.
It was.
With
It was
Devin's
amazing.
like Alexa going on.
Yeah.